They were twins, born of a god, abandoned to die, and raised by a wild beast. But only one would survive, and build an empire that would shake the world. This is the story of Romulus and Remus. Long before the rise of emperors and legions, before the marble temples and the glory of Rome, there was a prophecy, and a fearsome king determined to stop it. In the ancient land of Alba Longa ruled a tyrant named King Amulius. Power-hungry and cruel, he had stolen the throne from his own brother, Numitor, the rightful king. To secure his grip on power, Amulius devised a dark plan. He forced Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia, into the sacred order of the Vestal Virgins, sworn to chastity, forbidden from bearing children. If she had no heirs, the royal bloodline would die, and Amulius's rule would remain unchallenged. But fate had other plans. One night, Rhea Silvia was visited by Mars, the god of war. Whether it was by divine will or a dream cloaked in mystery, she became pregnant. Her secret could not remain hidden forever. Soon she gave birth to twin boys, Romulus and Remus. Amulius was furious. These children were not just a threat. They were a prophecy waiting to be fulfilled. He could not allow them to live. Rhea Silvia was imprisoned, and the twin infants were taken from her arms. But Amulius didn't kill them directly. Instead, he ordered a servant to place the babies in a basket and throw them into the river Tiber, hoping the current would carry them to their deaths. It was a cruel act meant to silence destiny, but destiny cannot be drowned. The river, swollen with spring. Rains did not sweep the children away. Instead, the basket caught on the roots of a fig tree near the base of Palatine Hill. There, something miraculous happened, something that would be whispered in myth for centuries to come. A she-wolf, drawn by their cries, approached the basket. Instead of devouring them, she did the unthinkable. She nursed them, cared for them as her own. This wild beast, feared by men, became their protector. The cave where she sheltered them, known as the Lupercal, would one day be honored as sacred ground in Roman tradition. Later, a humble shepherd named Faustulus and his wife Acca Larentia discovered the boys. Moved by the miracle, they raised Romulus and Remus as their sons, never revealing their royal blood. The twins grew up strong, fierce, and unbreakable, unaware that they were destined to change the world. But the shadow of their birth still loomed. The truth, once revealed, would ignite a fire that no king could contain. This was just the beginning. The cries of two helpless infants echoed through the wild woods near the Tiber, carried by the wind to ears not human, but divine. A she-wolf, drawn by something deeper than instinct, found the basket nestled under the fig tree. What followed wasn't nature. It was fate unfolding. She didn't harm them. Instead, she bent down, licked their tiny faces, and offered them life. In that sacred cave known as the Lupercal, the beast nursed the twins, Romulus and Remus, just as gently as any mother would. This was no ordinary beginning. These were no ordinary boys. Days turned to weeks. Somehow, they survived. But survival wasn't enough. Destiny had bigger plans. One morning, a shepherd named Faustulus was passing through the woods. He spotted the boys playing near the she-wolf, fearless and wild. Stunned by what he saw, he knew at once that the gods had touched these children. He took them home, and he and his wife, Acca Larentia, raised them as their own. Romulus and Remus grew fast, strong in body, sharp in mind, and bold in spirit. From an early age, they were natural leaders. They ran with other shepherd boys through the hills, played games of battle, and resolved every dispute with courage. But there was something different about them, something deeper, a fire that refused to be contained. As they reached manhood, tales of their bravery spread across the countryside. They protected villages from bandits, stood up to corrupt overseers, and united rival groups under their leadership. They weren't just boys from the hills. They were forces of change. People followed them not out of fear, but because they inspired something rare: hope. But still, the truth of their past lay buried. They didn't know they were princes. They didn't know their mother was a prisoner, or that their grandfather had been dethroned by a wicked king. That truth would soon come to light, through a twist of fate that would awaken their true identity. During a skirmish with rival shepherds loyal to King Romulus, Remus was captured and taken to Alba Longa. There, in chains before the king, rumors began to spread. The resemblance between Remus and the former royal bloodline couldn't be ignored. When word reached Faustulus, he knew it was time to reveal the truth. The fire within Romulus ignited. He marched toward the city with a storm in his eyes, not just to rescue his brother, but to claim the life that had been stolen from them. The reunion with their grandfather, Numitor, was powerful. The twins learned of their origin, their mother's suffering, and the cruel tyranny of Romulus. The shepherds had raised warriors, but now fate had returned royalty to its rightful place. Romulus and Remus weren't just survivors of the wild, they were sons of the gods and heirs to a fallen kingdom, and they were ready to take it back. The city of Alba Longa was silent the night the twins returned, not as boys from the hills, but as living storms born of prophecy. With every step Romulus and Remus took through the gates, destiny followed. They were no longer just legends whispered about in fields. They were warriors, leaders, and rightful heirs to a kingdom stolen before their birth. King Romulus, the tyrant who had tried to erase their existence, now stood face to face with the very sons he had ordered to die. The people watched in disbelief as the once hidden truth unraveled. Romulus, burning with fury, led the charge. It wasn't just a fight. It was justice carved through steel. In a swift uprising, the twins and their growing band of loyal supporters stormed the palace. Guards fled, chains were broken, and Romulus, the usurper who had feared the prophecy, was struck down by the very bloodline he sought to destroy. Their grandfather, Numitor, was restored to his rightful throne, and for a moment, peace returned to the land. But Romulus and Remus were not meant to rest. Something deep within them stirred, an itch that no crown could scratch. They had lived wild, free, powerful. The hills had raised them, and the world had tried to kill them. But they had survived everything. They weren't just princes. They were builders of something greater. The idea of founding a new city began as a shared dream, a vision of a place untouched by tyranny, shaped by their hands and protected by their strength, a place where destiny could take root. They set their eyes on the place where they had been saved, the banks of the Tiber, the land of the fig tree and the wolf, the sacred hill where their lives had truly begun. But for the first time, the brothers didn't agree. Romulus favored the Palatine Hill, drawn by its height and its view of the land. Remus preferred the Aventine, believing it was more strategic. What began as a difference of opinion grew into a storm of tension. They turned to the gods for a sign, an omen. Remus saw 6 vultures first, but Romulus claimed to see 12. Each insisted the gods were with him. Each believed it was his fate to build the city, and fate, cruel and divine, demanded blood. The argument turned violent. Whether in rage or in defense, Romulus struck his brother down. Remus fell to the ground, his blood staining the soil of the land they had both dreamed of. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the sound of destiny fulfilled through tragedy. Romulus stood alone, victorious but broken. He had won the right to build, but at the cost of his own brother. From that moment, the city was named Rome, after the one who remained. The empire was born, not from celebration, but from sacrifice, and the world would never be the same again. The wind blew cold over the Palatine Hill. The sun had barely risen, casting long shadows across the blood-stained earth. Romulus stood alone, his eyes fixed on the horizon, his heart heavy with both triumph and tragedy. Remus, his twin, his brother, his mirror, was gone, not by fate, not by war, but by his own hand. The price of greatness had been paid in blood, and now there was no turning back. But Rome could not wait for grief. With solemn resolve, Romulus began to build. He marked the boundaries of the new city with a plow, tracing a sacred line through the soil. Every step he took was deliberate. Every stone he laid, heavy with meaning. He declared the city sacred. None would cross its boundaries without permission. This was not just a place, it was an idea, a legacy, a vision born from divine will and human sacrifice. People began to gather. Farmers, wanderers, exiles, men with no homes, no kings, and no purpose. Romulus welcomed them all. He gave them shelter. He gave them land. And above all, he gave them a name: Romans. Under his leadership, the city grew not just in size, but in strength and unity. Where others saw chaos, Romulus created order. But a city cannot survive on strength alone. It needs future generations. And so, Romulus devised a plan. He invited the neighboring tribes to a grand festival. Music played, fires burned high, and joy filled the air. But beneath the celebration lay strategy. At the height of the gathering, Roman men seized the daughters of their rivals, the Sabine women, and took them as wives. It was bold. It was brutal. But it worked. The women, in time, came to love their Roman husbands, and peace was brokered between the tribes. What had begun in violence ended in unity. Romulus was no longer just a founder. He was a king. His rule was fierce but fair. He created the Senate, formed legions, and built temples to the gods. Rome, once just an idea in the minds of 2 abandoned brothers, became a force the world would soon reckon with. Years passed. Legends say that Romulus did not die like ordinary men. One day, during a fierce storm, he vanished. Some claimed the gods took him to the heavens, and he was reborn as the god Quirinus. Others say the truth was darker, but one thing remained certain. His legacy was eternal. Rome would rise to become the most powerful empire in history. Its roots, tangled in myth and blood, began with the story of 2 brothers, a wolf and a dream too powerful to die. And now, you've heard that story, the true beginning of Rome. If this journey gripped your heart, sparked your curiosity, or brought history to life in a way you've never heard before, don't let it end here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories, and share it with others who love tales of destiny, betrayal, and legend. Rome was built to last, and so is the power of a great story.